Hey guys, Greg from FactionFab. In front of me here, I have 3 of our Ford leveling kits, which are used to add a small lift to the front suspension. Ford trucks come from the factory with a slight rake in the ride height, with the front sitting just a little lower than the rear. But these spacers are easy to add onto the front struts and are a great way to increase ground clearance, create room for larger tires, or even just to give your truck a more imposing look. We designed these to be as durable as your truck, made with solid 6061 T6 billet aluminum that is type 2 black anodized to reduce the chance of corrosion and also add a great looking finish. Then we add pressed in coated studs and nuts, so this is a direct factory bolt-on kit with no modification needed. Now with 2 different options for the 2009 and up F150, we have a 1.5 inch and a 2 inch. And then we also have a 2.5 inch kit for the 2019 and up Rangers. Let's go take a look at the install on a 2014 Ford F150 that we have here in the shop. Here's what we're going to need to install the front leveling kit. A ratchet, breaker bar, and various extensions. You'll need 8, 10, 15, 18, and 21 millimeter sockets and or wrenches, pliers or a flathead screwdriver, a large pry bar, and a torque wrench. Raise the vehicle and remove the front wheels. It's very important to ensure proper safety procedure is followed when working underneath your truck, including the use of jack stands or other equipment. We want to remove the ABS line from the knuckle with an 8 millimeter and then the brake line with a 10 millimeter. The front hub has an actuator that controls the 4-wheel drive. We need to remove the vacuum line attached to this actuator by pulling gently. Remove the upper sway bar end link nut with an 18 millimeter. If it's stuck, you may need an 8 millimeter on the end link stud itself to hold it in place while you wrench the 18 millimeter nut off. Remove the axle nut dust cap with pliers or a flathead screwdriver. It should come straight out. Remove the axle nut with a 15 millimeter. Remove the tie rod nut with a 21 millimeter and a 10 millimeter on the tie rod if it's tight. Then remove the tie rod. A dead blow hammer on the knuckle can help release the tie rod if it is seized to the knuckle. Remove both lower strut mounting nuts with an 18 millimeter. Remove the upper ball joint nut with a 21 millimeter and also a 10 millimeter on the ball joint stud itself. Then remove the ball joint and be prepared for the whole knuckle to fall. Remove the 3 upper strut nuts with a 15 millimeter. We find a ratcheting wrench to be easiest here. Now push the control arm and knuckle down to remove the upper top hat from the truck mount. When we reinstall the strut after installing the leveling spacer, the strut will be rotated 180 degrees. For easier install, to correct the lower bushing orientation, leave the lower mount in place and pull the top of the strut forward to rotate the lower bushing. We want to go about 30 degrees. Pull the strut out, then install the FactionFab leveling spacer on the strut using the OEM nuts. Torque to 35 foot-pounds. Now we can install the strut back in the vehicle. A large pry bar can help push the control arms apart to fit the longer strut in the vehicle. Make sure to line up the end link during this process. Go ahead and thread the nuts in the top hat mount, bottom of the strut, and end link, but do not torque yet. Go ahead and line up the axle shaft to go into the knuckle, and then attach the tie rod and thread a nut on the bottom of the tie rod. So the 4-wheel drive models have this plastic hub lock actuator bolted to the knuckle. This must line up properly with the splines of the axle so that we don't break the actuator. You'll know this is lined up properly if there is no gap at the bottom of the actuator between the actuator and the axle after it is fully seated. Make sure it is fully seated before adding the axle nut. Then go ahead and add the axle nut, torque it to 20 foot-pounds, and install the dust cap. Connect the upper ball joint and add the nut. A large pry bar can help here, or even a jack below the knuckle to help lift the knuckle into the control arm. Finish up the rest of the components by installing the hub actuator vacuum line, and then the ABS wire with an 8 millimeter, and the brake line with a 10 millimeter. After that, torque all nuts to spec. Top hat 35 foot-pounds, upper ball joint 85 foot-pounds, end link 70 foot-pounds, tie rod 76 foot-pounds, lower strut, both of them 66 foot-pounds, ABS wire bracket 10 foot-pounds, and the brake line bracket 20 foot-pounds. Install the wheels back on the car and lower the vehicle. Make sure to check your clearance of all areas around the suspension, including the axles, wheels, fenders, fender liners, and anything else that may have been affected by this change in ride height. The truck will now require an alignment to be done by a professional. If you don't do this, it could drastically affect your handling and result in damage to the wheels, tires, or other suspension components. And thanks for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more content from FactionFab on our latest products and news. And we'll see you again next time.